I watched helplessly as the expensive china plate slipped from my fingers, shattering across my parents' pristine kitchen floor. The sound might as well have been a gunshot in the tense silence that followed. "For God's sake, Sarah." My mother's voice cut through the air. "That was your grandmother's wedding gift to us. I'm Sarah Cooper, 26, and all my life, I've been labeled as the clumsy one. The family joke. The girl who couldn't walk straight if her life depended on it." "I'm sorry," I mumbled, already reaching for the broom. My hands trembled slightly. They've been doing that more lately. "It just slipped." "Everything just slips with you," my sister Amanda sneered from the doorway. "Remember last month when you dropped Dad's laptop?" I did remember, just like I remembered every glass I'd broken, every fall I'd taken, every time my body seemed to betray me. It wasn't just clumsiness anymore. Something felt wrong, really wrong. But try telling that to my family. "I'll pay for a replacement," I offered, though we all knew no antique store could replace the family heirloom I'd just destroyed. Dad walked in, surveying the damage. "Maybe if you'd just concentrate for once," he sighed, that familiar disappointed look crossing his face. "You've been like this since you were a child. Always in your own world, never paying attention." My brother Alex, the only one who occasionally defended me, spoke up from the living room. "Come on, guys. It was an accident." "Her whole life is one big accident," Amanda retorted. "Remember Tommy Martinez's wedding? When she tripped walking down the aisle as a bridesmaid?" Of course I remembered. I'd been a laughingstock, and the video had made rounds on social media. What they didn't know was how hard I concentrated on each step, how I'd practiced for weeks beforehand, how I felt the strange numbness in my legs that day but pushed through anyway. I started, then hesitated. I tried to bring this up before, but they never listened. "I think something might be wrong. Medically wrong." Mom threw her hands up in exasperation. "Here we go again. Sarah, honey, you're not sick. You're just distracted. Always have been." "No, Mom, it's different now. My hands shake sometimes, and my legs." "Because you spend too much time on that computer of yours." Dad interrupted. "If you'd exercise more." "I do exercise," I protested. "But sometimes I can't feel my feet properly and my balance." Amanda rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. Now you're just making excuses. You know what your problem is? You never take responsibility for anything." I felt tears pricking at my eyes as I continued sweeping up the broken china. My fingers weren't cooperating properly, making even this simple task difficult. Recently, even typing at work had become challenging. I'd started making so many mistakes that my boss had pulled me aside for a talk. "I've made an appointment," I said quietly, not looking up. "With a neurologist." The silence that followed was deafening. "A neurologist?" Mom's voice was incredulous. "Sarah, this is ridiculous. You're wasting money and doctor's time because you can't admit you need to be more careful." "Actually," Alex interjected, "I've noticed it too. The other day at the mall, her hand was shaking so bad she could barely hold her coffee cup." "She's probably just anxious," Amanda dismissed. "She's always been dramatic." I straightened up, the dustpan full of broken china pieces. As I turned to walk to the trash can, my right leg suddenly went numb. That horrible pins and needles sensation I've been experiencing more frequently. I stumbled, sending the broken pieces scattering across the floor again. "For heaven's sake," Mom exclaimed. "I told you," Dad said, shaking his head. No awareness of her surroundings at all. I stayed on the floor, my legs still not cooperating. The numbness was spreading up to my hip now, and panic was setting in. This was the worst episode yet. I can't get up," I whispered. "Oh, stop it," Amanda snapped. "This is pathetic, even for you." But Alex must have seen something in my face because he rushed over. "Sarah, what's wrong?" "I can't feel my leg," I said, my voice shaking. "It's happening again, but worse this time. I really can't feel it." "She's faking," Amanda insisted, but there must have been something in my expression that finally got through to my parents. "Sarah?" Mom's voice had lost its edge of irritation, replaced by something that might have been concern. "Sarah, honey." The room started spinning and black spots danced in my vision. The last thing I heard was Alex shouting for someone to call an ambulance as the world tilted sideways and everything went dark. I woke up in the emergency room, the harsh fluorescent lights making me squint. Alex was there, holding my hand, while my parents huddled with a doctor in the corner. Amanda was nowhere to be seen. Miss Cooper, the doctor said, approaching my bed with a tablet in hand. We've done some preliminary tests, and I'm seeing some concerning results. I'm going to refer you to our neurology department immediately. These symptoms you've been experiencing, how long have they been going on? Before I could answer, Mom stepped forward, her face pale. She's always been clumsy. But this is different, isn't it? This isn't just clumsiness. The doctor's expression was grave as he pulled up something on his tablet. No, Mrs. Cooper, I'm afraid it's not. Look at these initial scans. The neurologist's office was sterile and bright, walls covered with diagrams of the nervous system. Dr. Harrison sat across from us, her expression serious as she reviewed my test results. Miss Cooper has multiple sclerosis, she stated, her words dropping like bombs in the quiet room. The MRI shows several lesions on her brain and spinal cord, which explain the symptoms she's been experiencing. Mom gripped Dad's hand, her knuckles white. Multiple sclerosis? But that's not possible. She's so young. Actually, Dr. Harrison said, turning her computer screen to show us the brain scans, MS often manifests in young adults, particularly women between 20 and 40. These white spots here, she pointed to several areas, are areas where the myelin sheath protecting her nerves has been damaged. I stared at the images, feeling a strange mix of vindication and terror. After years of being told I was just careless, here was concrete proof that something was actually wrong. The good news, Dr. Harrison continued, is that we've caught this relatively early, though these lesions suggest you've had the condition for several years. The symptoms you described, numbness, tremors, balance issues, coordination problems, they're all classic MS indicators. Years? Dad's voice cracked. She's had this for years. I couldn't help myself. I tried to tell you, I said quietly. All those times you said I was just being careless or not paying attention. I knew something was wrong. The weight of those words hung heavy in the room. Mom started crying softly, while Dad looked like he aged a decade in minutes. The incident at home, Dr. Harrison continued, what we call an episode or flare-up, was likely triggered by stress and physical exertion. MS is unpredictable, but there are treatments available to help manage the condition and slow its progression. She began outlining treatment options, medication, physical therapy, lifestyle changes. I tried to focus, but my mind kept drifting to all those moments of humiliation, all those times I'd been mocked or scolded for something I couldn't control. Alex, who'd insisted on coming to the appointment, spoke up. What can we do to help? Family support is crucial, Dr. Harrison emphasized. MS can be challenging to manage, both physically and emotionally. Understanding and patience from family members makes a significant difference in outcomes. Mom wiped her eyes. The signs were there, the trembling hands, the falls, the fatigue. We just didn't want to see them. Many MS symptoms are invisible to others, Dr. Harrison explained gently. It's a common situation where patients struggle to be believed before diagnosis. That's why it's often called an invisible illness. Amanda's empty chair seemed to mock us. She'd refused to come, still insisting I was being dramatic. The irony wasn't lost on me. Will I hesitated, voicing my biggest fear. Will I end up in a wheelchair? MS affects everyone differently, Dr. Harrison replied carefully. Some patients never need mobility assistance, others might need it occasionally or permanently. With proper treatment and management, many people with MS lead full, active lives. As she continued explaining the treatment plan, I noticed my parents exchanging guilty looks. Every symptom she described matched complaints they dismissed over the years. The numbness and coordination issues will likely continue to come and go, she explained. We call these relapsing remitting patterns. The key is learning to recognize your triggers and managing your energy levels. All those times at work, I said softly, when my hands wouldn't type properly or I'd drop things, it wasn't clumsiness at all. No, Dr. Harrison confirmed. Those were likely early symptoms of neurological dysfunction. Moving forward, you might need workplace accommodations. Dad cleared his throat. Is there anything we can do to make up for not believing her all this time? Dr. Harrison's expression softened. The best thing you can do now is learn about MS and be supportive. Sarah will need help navigating this new reality. As we left the office, clutching pamphlets and prescription orders, the weight of the diagnosis settled over us. Years of being labeled as clumsy, careless, and dramatic had actually been years of an undiagnosed neurological condition slowly manifesting. In the parking lot, Mom suddenly turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "Sarah, honey, I'm so sorry. All those times we scolded you, blamed you. Can you ever forgive us?" I looked at my parents' anguished faces, at Alex's supportive presence, at the empty space where Amanda should have been. "I forgive you," I said finally, "but things need to change. I need you to believe me when I tell you something's wrong." "We will," Dad promised, his voice thick with emotion. "No more dismissing your symptoms, no more accusations. We're here for you, whatever you need." As we drove home, I felt a strange mix of emotions. The diagnosis was scary, but finally having an explanation, finally being believed, it was like a weight had been lifted. The road ahead would be challenging, but at least now I knew I wasn't crazy, wasn't careless, wasn't making things up. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. "Mom told me the diagnosis. Call me when you can." Maybe, just maybe, this would be the wake-up call my family needed. Sometimes the hardest truths come with undeniable evidence. 6 months after my diagnosis, I stood in front of the mirror, practicing with my new mobility cane. It wasn't always necessary, but Dr. Harrison had suggested keeping it handy for bad days. Today wasn't a bad day, but I was preparing for something important, my first public speaking engagement about living with MS. My phone buzzed with a message from Amanda. "Just arrived at the community center, saved seats for the family in the front row. You've got this, sis." The change in my sister had been the most surprising development of all. After that initial text, the day of my diagnosis, Amanda had thrown herself into MS research. Now she ran my support group's social media and had become my fiercest advocate. "Need a ride?" Alex poked his head into my room. Since the diagnosis, he'd moved into the apartment next door to mine. Mom and Dad are already there. The community center was packed. I recognized faces from my support group, but there were many new ones too. My family sat front and center, wearing their MS awareness t-shirts that Amanda had designed. As I took the stage, my legs felt steady. A good day indeed. I looked out at the crowd, took a deep breath, and began. A year ago, I was known as the clumsy one, the careless one, the one who couldn't be trusted with anything breakable. What nobody knew, what I didn't even know, was that my body was fighting an invisible battle. I saw Mom wipe away tears as I continued. MS didn't just affect my body. It affected my relationships, my self-worth, my trust in my own experiences. When you're constantly told that you're just not trying hard enough, you start to believe it. From the audience, I heard murmurs of recognition. My dad sat straight-backed, holding Mom's hand, his eyes never leaving my face. But this story isn't about blame. It's about learning, understanding, and growth. My family sits here today not as the people who dismiss my symptoms, but as the strongest support system I could ask for. Amanda smiled encouragingly, nodding for me to continue. My mother, who once scolded me for dropping dishes, now helps me organize my kitchen with MS-friendly tools. My father, who thought I just needed to concentrate harder, now drives me to physical therapy twice a week. My sister, who called me dramatic, now runs MS awareness campaigns. I paused, steadying myself against the podium as a wave of fatigue hit, another invisible symptom I was learning to manage. Living with MS means every day is different. Some days I need my cane, some days I don't. Some days I can type for hours, others I can barely hold a pen. But now, when I say I'm struggling, people listen. They understand. They believe me. The rest of my speech focused on practical advice: managing symptoms, advocating for yourself, building a support system. When I finished, the applause was heartfelt, and I saw several people wiping away tears. After the presentation, during the reception, Amanda approached with a stranger. "Sarah, this is Dr. Stevens. She's interested in featuring your story in a medical journal article about delayed MS diagnosis and family dynamics." The doctor smiled warmly. "Your experience could help other families recognize symptoms earlier. Would you be interested in sharing your story?" Before I could respond, Mom joined us. "She's already helped our family recognize signs in others," she said proudly. "Remember Cousin Beth?" I nodded. After learning about my MS, Mom had reached out to various family members who'd been labeled clumsy or accident-prone. 2 were now being tested for neurological conditions. "Support groups are growing," Amanda added. Sarah's blog about invisible illnesses has over 10,000 followers now. Dad appeared with a chair. Sit, sweetheart. I noticed you favoring your left leg. I smiled at his attentiveness but remained standing. I'm okay right now, Dad, but thank you for noticing. That was the biggest change, my family's awareness. They'd learned to notice the subtle signs of fatigue or discomfort, but they'd also learned to trust me when I said I was fine. Alex joined us with drinks, water for me, as we learned that alcohol could trigger symptoms. To Sarah, he said, raising his glass, for teaching us to listen. Later that night, back at my apartment, I updated my blog. Today I spoke about living with MS, but really, I spoke about transformation. About how a diagnosis didn't just explain my symptoms, it changed my family's entire perspective. We learned that invisible doesn't mean imaginary, that not being able to see something doesn't make it less real. Yes, I have MS. Yes, some days are hard. But I'm no longer fighting this battle alone, no longer struggling to be believed. My clumsiness had a name all along, and in naming it we found strength, understanding, and a deeper connection than we'd ever had before. To everyone out there still fighting to be heard, your symptoms are real, your experiences are valid, and somewhere out there is a doctor, a family member, or a friend who will finally listen and say the words you've been waiting to hear. I believe you. I posted the entry and looked at the framed brain scan on my wall, the one that had changed everything. It reminded me daily that sometimes the hardest paths lead to the most important destinations. My phone buzzed with our family group chat. Sunday dinner this week. Mom found new MS-friendly recipes to try. I smiled and typed back, count me in. On good days and bad days, always count me in.